Listen up, because what I'm about to tell you changed everything. My name is Roosevelt Washington, folks. Call me Rosie, and I'm 71 years old. Until that Sunday afternoon, I honestly believed I was living in my son's house out of pure charity. I thought I was just some old man taking up space, eating food that wasn't mine, being a burden nobody wanted, but everybody tolerated. Lord, if only I had known the truth from the jump. But I didn't. I was a fool who kept his mouth shut for way too long. It was Sunday, October 13th, to be exact. The Georgia sun was beating down hard on the backyard of that house in Stone Mountain, right there in Cascade Heights, where the homes got big yards, 2-car garages, and neighbors who act like they got it all figured out. My son Terrell had fired up the grill early that morning. The smell of those beef ribs mixed with hickory smoke was making my stomach rumble. I was sitting in my usual spot at the end of that white plastic table, watching Terrell flip the meat with those tongs I'd given him for his birthday 3 years back. Diamond had set the table real nice with the fine china we wait. Hold up I bought for their wedding 15 years ago. Back then, Terrell was barely making ends meet as a shift supervisor at that packaging plant off Highway 78. But those details? They disappear like smoke from the grill, don't they? Past favors evaporate into thin air when folks get comfortable. The guests were Isaiah and Kaisha, a couple from the neighborhood. He works for State Farm Insurance, and she teaches 4th grade at the elementary school down on Memorial Drive. Decent, church-going people from those families that never miss a Sunday service and wave at everybody like they're running for mayor. They'd rolled up around noon with a bottle of Hennessy and some flowers for Diamond. I didn't know them well, just seen them at a couple of family cookouts. "Mr. Washington, how you doing, sir?" Isaiah had asked when he arrived, with that respect you don't see much in young folks anymore. "Good, good. Staying busy," I answered. And it's true. At 71, I still get up at 6 o'clock every morning. I make breakfast for my grandkids, grits, eggs, turkey bacon, the whole spread. I drive them to school in my 14-year-old Dodge Ram. I hit the Kroger, help around the house, fix whatever's broken. I ain't one of those old men who sit around watching. The price is right all day. Kaisha asked about my health and the grandkids. Diamond answered for me, like she always does, as if I was deaf or simple. "He's doing fine, though he gets tired faster now," she said, putting a basket of warm cornbread on the table. I didn't say nothing. I never say nothing. I learned how to be invisible in this house 2 years ago when I moved in. 2 years since my sweet Loretta passed. 2 years since I sold the 3 auto shops I built with these hands that still smell like motor oil and honest work. 2 years living in that small room next to the garage. It's all we got available, Pops. You know the house ain't that big. The grandkids came running down the stairs. Zara, 17, already a young woman with her phone glued to her hand like it was surgically attached. And Deshaun, 14, skinny but sharp as a tack, smart like his granddaddy. "Grandpa!" Deshaun shouted, plopping down next to me. Zara gave me a kiss on the forehead. She smelled like that expensive perfume I bought her last week, the one she'd been hinting about for a month. "Kids, say hello to the guests first," Terrell told them, and they obeyed. I'll give them that I got good, well-mannered grandkids. The food was excellent. My Loretta had taught Diamond how to cook when they were dating. Grilled ribs with that sauce that makes your eyes water. Baked mac and cheese with 3 different cheeses. Collard greens cooked down with smoked turkey. Potato salad with the sweet pickles just how I like it. Terrell served Bud Light for everyone, even for me, though I prefer sweet tea with lemon. We talked about everything. Isaiah told stories that had us all laughing. Kaisha asked for the mac and cheese recipe. The kids talked about school and their teachers. Terrell and Diamond looked happy, relaxed, like life was just perfect. I listened, nodded, laughed when it seemed right. My usual role, the grandfather who doesn't cause waves, doesn't offer opinions nobody asked for, just grateful to be there. So y'all planning any trips? Kaisha asked Diamond. We trying to get down to the Florida Keys in December, Diamond said, her voice all excited. It was her third beer, and her cheeks were flushed. Lord, we need a vacation. Terrell found this amazing all-inclusive package online, but it's tough with all our expenses. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we feel you, Kaisha said. We trying to do that cruise to the Caribbean. You know, one of them fancy ones with the midnight buffet and everything. Y'all taking Mr. Washington with you? Isaiah asked, turning to me with a smile. The silence lasted maybe 5 seconds, but it felt like forever. Diamond and Terrell looked at each other, and I saw something in their eyes I didn't like. That look of annoyance, like when kids get caught doing something they know they shouldn't. Then Diamond said the words that broke my heart into 1,000 pieces. No, he's staying behind. I'm sick and tired of supporting your father, Terrell. He spend money like he got it, but he living off us. That $800 he give us don't even cover the electric bill with all them lights he leave on. My fork froze halfway between my plate and my mouth. I felt like somebody had thrown a bucket of ice water on me. Isaiah and Kaisha looked down at their plates, uncomfortable as hell. Zara and Deshawn went dead silent, staring at me with those big eyes they got from their grandmother. But what hurt the most, what cut me deeper than any knife, was what my son said. My Terrell, the boy I carried on my shoulders when he was little, the one I taught to drive, the one whose college tuition I paid every semester without missing a beat. She's right, Pops, Terrell said, not even looking at me. We need to talk about your expenses. You bought new clothes last week. You spending money on your expensive medication. The money you give us ain't enough. This is our house. Our rules apply here. Our house, as if I was a stranger. As if the $800 I give them every month was some kind of handout. As if working 55 years as a mechanic didn't give me the right to buy a new shirt or my blood pressure pills. Feeling bold now that her husband had her back. Kept going. Plus, you always leaving lights on everywhere. You waste water like it's free. And you eat like the food don't cost nothing, like we got money trees growing in the backyard. Me, the man who'd been making breakfast for this family for 2 years without charging a dime. Me, who'd been driving the grandkids around without asking for gas money. Me, who'd been fixing everything that breaks in this house. Who'd never raised my voice or made a sour face. Who'd been nothing but grateful and helpful. I sat there feeling my stomach turn inside out and my mouth go dry. My eyes started burning, but I swallowed those tears down. I wasn't about to cry in front of these guests. I wasn't about to give Diamond that satisfaction. Kaisha mumbled something about the weather changing. Isaiah cleared his throat and said the ribs were delicious, trying to cut the tension you could slice with a butter knife. The grandkids looked at me with sad faces, especially Deshawn, who's always been sensitive to people's feelings. But nobody spoke up for me. I slowly stood up, feeling all 71 years in my knees and my back. I placed my napkin beside my plate, though I barely touched my food. Excuse me, I said in the calmest voice I could manage. I ain't hungry no more. I walked toward my little room, at 10 by -13-foot space with my twin bed, my small dresser, and the little table where I keep my important papers. I closed the door quietly, sat on the bed, and stared out that small window facing the garage. The cookout continued outside, but without the laughter. I heard Isaiah and Kaisha leave early, didn't even say goodbye to me. I heard Diamond stacking dishes, muttering things I didn't want to understand. I heard Terrell turn on the TV to watch football. Life as normal. As if nothing had happened. as if they hadn't just stabbed a knife straight through my heart in front of company. That night, I didn't sleep. Not one wink. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything. About the years I worked double shifts to pay for Terrell's education at Clark Atlanta University. About the times I went without eating so he could have new Jordan sneakers. About the wedding I paid for, the honeymoon to Jamaica, the car I bought him when he got his first good job. I thought about my Loretta and how proud she was of our son. Terrell's a good boy. Rosie, he's going to take care of us when we get old. Poor Loretta. She died without seeing what her beloved boy had become. At 4 o'clock in the morning, I got up and turned on the lamp. I opened the dresser and pulled out the file folder I keep at the bottom, under the linens I don't use anymore. The folder with all my important papers, the ones I'd never shown Terrell because I thought it wasn't necessary. The deeds, the payment receipts, the contracts, everything perfectly organized, everything in order, everything proving a truth that Terrell and Diamond didn't know. Truth that nobody knew except me and my late Loretta. A truth that was about to change everything. Because turns out, the house where I live is a burden. The house where Terrell's rules apply. The house where I'm no longer welcome. I bought that house 5 years ago with my own money and my own hard work. Yes, my dear Terrell, your dependent father. Your father who spends money like he got it. Your father who can't even cover the electric bill. That father is the owner of the house you living in, and it was about time you knew it. With trembling hands, I opened that yellowing folder where I keep everything that truly matters. Deeds, receipts, contracts. My whole life documented in papers that smell like age and truth. There it was, the document that would change everything. Purchase agreement. Property located in Cascade Heights subdivision, Stone Mountain, Georgia. Price, $280,000. Buyer, Roosevelt, Washington. Date, March 15th, 2018. 5 years earlier, Terrell had told me he'd found the perfect house to start his marriage with Diamond. Pops, it's beautiful. Got 3 bedrooms, big backyard, in a real safe neighborhood. But it cost almost $300,000. We ain't never going to be able to afford it. I remember his sad face. How Diamond cried because their dream of owning their own home had fallen through. They'd been renting that cramped apartment in Decatur, barely enough room to breathe. What did I do? What any father does for his son. I sold one of my auto shops, the one on Candler Road, the one that took me 10 years of blood, sweat, and tears to build. I went to the Wells Fargo branch at South DeKalb Mall, withdrew the money, and gave it to Terrell. It's your early wedding gift, son. The house is yours. I put it in his name from the very beginning. Deed registered to Terrell, Washington, October 2018. But now, sitting on my small bed in that utility room, looking at these papers under the lamplight, I realized my mistake. I should have remained the owner. I should have thought about my own future, but I didn't. I believed in fairy tales where children take care of their parents out of love, not obligation. You know what the bank transfer receipt says under concept? Purchase of real estate family gift. I signed it with my own hand, with the dreams of a father who believes his son will be eternally grateful. I was a fool. Forgive me for saying it. But sometimes the truth hurts so much that only hard words can express it right. Closed my eyes, and all the memories hit me at once. Like opening a fire hydrant on full blast, I saw myself at 16, a skinny kid with already calloused hands, showing up at Big Earl's garage in South Atlanta. Boy, if you want to learn this trade, you got to start at the bottom. You're going to clean tools, sweep floors, fetch coffee. And if you prove yourself, I'll teach you. I worked for Big Earl for 15 years, earning next to nothing, learning every secret of engines, Every trick to fix what other mechanics gave up on. 15 years saving every dollar, hiding the money in a coffee tin under my bed, dreaming of my own shop. I achieved it at 31, Washington's Auto Repair. The blue sign with red letters on Glenwood Avenue, number 1847. A tiny, damp place with a dirt floor and used tools. But it was mine. I remember my first customer, an old man named Mr. Robinson, with his 1992 Honda Accord that wouldn't start. I charged him $40. He paid me $50. For being the first, he told me. I treasured those bills like they were gold. Terrell was born when I was 34. My Loretta put him in my arms, all red and wrinkled, like a little raisin. He looked just like you. Rosie, she told me, crying with happiness. I looked at him and thought, this child gonna have everything I didn't. He gonna study. He gonna be a professional. He ain't gonna break his back like his father. And I kept my promise. When Terrell was 6 and needed shoes for school, I worked until 10 o'clock at night to pay for those Nikes he wanted so badly. When he was 12 and wanted a mountain bike, I sold my motorcycle to buy it for him. When he got to high school and asked to go to Maynard Jackson High instead of the neighborhood school because all his friends were going there, I took on extra work on weekends. At 45, I opened the second shop on Memorial Drive, bigger, better located. By then, I had 5 employees and customers who recommended me all over the city. Go see Rosie Washington. That man can fix anything with an engine. Terrell was already in college at Clark Atlanta. Business administration. Very diligent. Made the dean's list twice. The third shop came when I turned 52 on I-285 South. The biggest one of all, with hydraulic lifts and computerized diagnostic equipment. Washington's Auto Repair transmission specialists. The radio ad played on 5 to 103 every morning during the Steve Harvey show. Terrell was finishing his degree. Pops, when I graduate, I'ma help you with the business, he'd say. But it never happened. He got a job at AutoZone Corporate, earned good money, felt important with his cubicle and his tie and his business cards. At 25, he told me he wanted to marry Diamond the Pretty, educated girl from a good family in College Park. Pops, we want a nice wedding, but we need help. How much did I spend on that wedding? $18,000. The reception hall at the Atlanta Marriott Marquis. Food for 200 guests. A live band that played old school R&B. Diamond's dress cost $2,000. By itself looked like something from a magazine. It's my only son's wedding, I explained to Loretta when she saw the bank statement. I ain't holding back. She understood. My Loretta always understood. Just don't leave yourself broke, old man, she'd say with that little smile she used when she was gently scolding me. 3 years later, Zara arrived, my first grandchild. Terrell needed a bigger vehicle for the family. Pops, I saw a used Ford Explorer. It's in great shape, but they want a $15,000 down payment. There I went again, pulling from my savings. Then Deshawn arrived, and again, Pops, we need to move. This apartment too small now. And 3 years ago, when Terrell wanted to buy that BMW X5, he came to the shop looking nervous. Pops, the bank approved the loan, but I need a cosigner. Somebody to take responsibility if I can't pay. $48,000 was the debt. I co-signed without thinking twice. He was my son, my blood. How could I not trust him? But everything changed when my Loretta died. Pancreatic cancer took her in 6 months, from diagnosis to funeral. One day she was cooking Sunday dinner. Next thing I know, she's in Grady Hospital with tubes and machines keeping her alive. From one day to the next. I was alone in that house in the old 4th Ward. the one we bought when we were newlyweds. Where we raised Terrell, where every corner reminded me of her. The walls closed in on me. Every room whispered her name. The shop no longer excited me. I woke up with no purpose. I ate once a day, if that. Terrell and Diamond invited me to stay with them. "Pops, you can't be alone. Come live with us. We got a little room next to the garage you can fix up." I thought it was a son's love. Genuine concern. I sold all 3 auto shops for $400,000, a fortune to me. I thought, this is enough for the rest of my life. I won't be a burden to nobody. But from the first day, they treated me like a visitor who'd overstayed his welcome. "Pops, this room was for storage. It don't have its own bathroom. You gotta use the one downstairs. Pops, the kids need to study in the afternoons. Try not to make noise. Pops, Diamond cooks for the family. If you want something special, you gotta ask her in advance." And I was grateful. "Thank you, son, for giving me shelter. Don't worry about me. I'll adapt. Here, take this $800 to help with expenses. I don't want to be a burden." $800 was a small amount compared to what I had, but it represented my dignity, my way of feeling like I was contributing. Now, with these documents in my hands, I understand everything. I was never a visitor in this house. I was never a burden. I never lived on charity. This house is mine. I bought it. I paid for it. I gave it to Terrell because I loved him, because I wanted him to be happy. But he believed the story so much that he forgot where it came from, and that $400,000 from selling the shops. It's sitting in my Wells Fargo and Chase bank accounts. Terrell thinks his poor old Pops is living off a measly Social Security check of $1,200 a month. He don't know that his dependent father has more money than he'll ever earn in his entire life. You know what the most painful part is? That for 2 years, I believed their version of the story. I believed I was the troublesome grandfather, wasting other people's money, not contributing nothing. I got used to apologizing for existing, doing everything quiet, not to bother nobody, eating leftovers without complaining. But Diamond's words at that cookout woke me up. Sick of supporting your father. As if the $800 I give every month was a handout. Not my contribution. As if the breakfasts I cook, the errands I run, the grandkids I watch don't count for nothing. As if 55 years of honest work gave me the right to nothing. Terrell said, "This is our house." And technically, he's right, the deed's in his name, but morally, humanly, this house is mine. I paid for it with my sweat, my work, my love for him. I gifted it because I believed he would always respect me, that he would care for me like I cared for him. I was wrong, and now it's time to correct my mistake. I put the papers away and took out my cell phone. I looked up the number for Mr. Patterson, the attorney who helped me sell the auto shops. The screen glowed in the darkness. Patterson and Associates Legal Services. It was 4:30 in the morning. In 5 hours, I would call him and ask something I already suspected, something I learned when I processed the gift deed for this house. In Georgia, gifts can be revoked due to the ingratitude of the recipient. Terrell and Diamond were about to learn a lesson I should have taught them a long time ago. They gonna learn that respect ain't begged for, it's earned. They gonna learn that gratitude ain't optional, it's mandatory. Gonna learn that humiliating the person who gave you everything has consequences. And I'm about to get my dignity back. Even if it's the last thing I do in this life. At 5:30 in the morning, I got out of bed without making a sound. I'd slept maybe 2 or 3 hours, but my body couldn't stay still. Ideas were churning in my head like water coming to a boil. A perfect plan had formed by itself overnight. It wasn't revenge, understand me clearly. It was something deeper, cleaner, Justice. I took a cold shower in the shared bathroom, trying not to wake nobody up. Then I opened my small dresser and took out the navy blue suit I hadn't worn since Loretta's funeral. The same one I used when I went to sign important contracts. When I closed six-figure deals. When I was Roosevelt Washington, the businessman, not the dependent grandfather. The white shirt still smelled of cedar from the closet. The burgundy tie with small gold patterns was a gift from Loretta for our 30th anniversary. My leather shoes bought at Lenox Square Mall when I opened the third. Shop were polished like mirrors. I looked in the owners. Small dresser mirror and recognized the man I used to. B. Serious, determined, respectable. The house was silent. Terrell and Diamond were sleeping in their master bedroom, the one with the private bath and the jacuzzi tub I had installed when I bought the house. The grandkids were also asleep, unaware of the earthquake that was coming. I tiptoed out, closed the door without a sound, and started my Dodge Ram without revving the engine too much. Didn't want to wake the neighbors at this hour. The streets of Stone Mountain were almost empty. A few people heading to early church service. A couple of delivery trucks making their morning rounds. The cool October air hit my face when I rolled down the window. I felt different, renewed, like a heavy burden had been lifted from my shoulders. Mr. Patterson's office was downtown, Atlanta, on the third floor of a brick building on Peachtree Street. I arrived at 7:15 and waited in the truck, watching the city wake up. Street vendors setting up, musicians with their guitars, flower sellers, early commuters rushing to MARTA stations. The normal life of a city that didn't know Roosevelt Washington was about to change his history. 7:45. I walked up the stairs. The receptionist, a young woman with natural hair and bright red lipstick, greeted me with surprise. Mr. Washington. What a surprise. The attorney doesn't arrive until 8:30. I'll wait, I told her, sitting in one of the leather chairs. It's urgent. The young woman offered me coffee. I accepted even though my hands were already shaking, and I knew the caffeine would only make it worse. But I needed to stay busy. Needed time to pass faster. In my brown leather briefcase, the one I used for important meetings, I carried all the documents. Deeds, receipts, contracts. My entire life in sealed and signed papers. Mr. Patterson arrived at 8:25, a black man around my age. Well-groomed, salt and pepper hair, immaculate charcoal suit. We'd known each other for 15 years. He'd handled all my legal affairs, the purchase of the shops, contracts with suppliers, the final sale of the business. Roosevelt. Brother, what a surprise. How's the family? The grandkids? The grandkids are fine. The family? I paused. That's why I'm here. In his office, surrounded by bookshelves filled with law books and framed degrees from Howard University, I told him everything. Every detail of Sunday. Every word from Diamond. Every gesture from Terrell. The attorney listened intently, taking notes in his leather notebook. Mr. Washington, let me see the gift documents. I handed him the complete folder. He reviewed every paper with the careful attention of someone who's seen many similar cases. Then he took off his reading glasses and looked at me steadily. Roosevelt. According to Georgia Code Title 44, Chapter 5, a gift can be revoked due to gross ingratitude of the recipient when they commit acts demonstrating a lack of recognition toward the giver. Do you have witnesses to what happened? My son's friends heard everything. Isaiah and his wife Kaisha. And my grandkids were there. They saw the whole thing. Were there other prior instances of mistreatment? I told him about the 2 years of silent humiliations, the constant disrespect, the house rules that treated me like an unwelcome visitor, the way Diamond dismissed me like I was old furniture nobody wanted but couldn't throw away. Enough, the attorney said, closing the folder. This constitutes gross ingratitude under Georgia law. The process can take 3 to 6 months, but we can start immediately. We can also request a temporary protective order if you need somewhere to stay. I don't want to go back there, I said firmly. I want them to learn their lesson. I want them to know what it's like to lose what they took for granted. I understand. What else can I do for you? I need you to prepare all the papers today, and I need you to recommend a trustworthy notary public. I left the office at 9:30 with an appointment for 4 o'clock that afternoon. Mr. Patterson was going to have all the documents ready. He also gave me the number of a notary public he trusted, just in case I needed to make changes to my will or power of attorney. My next stop was the Wells Fargo branch at South DeKalb Mall, where I've had my main account for 20 years. I arrived just as the doors were opening. The branch manager, a professional sister in her 40s, greeted me with the courtesy they reserve for clients with substantial accounts. Mr. Washington, how can we help you today? I need to make several important transactions. First, I want to withdraw $50,000 in cash. She blinked in surprise. That's a considerable amount, Mr. Washington. Are you sure? We can handle it with wire transfers or cashier's checks. In cash, I repeated. And I also need information about a car loan where I appear as a cosigner. She asked me to wait while she checked the system. 5 minutes later, she returned with a folder and a look of concern on her face. Mr. Washington, you are indeed listed as cosigner on a loan for $48,000 in the name of Terrell Washington. The current balance is $32,000. Is there a problem? I want to withdraw my cosigning today. The manager went pale. Mr. Washington, if you withdraw your guarantee, the bank is obligated to notify the credit holder and demand they present a new cosigner or liquidate the entire debt within 30 days. If they fail to comply, we'll proceed with repossession of the vehicle. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. Are you sure? Your son could lose his car. Cold legal justice, but justice nonetheless. My son is about to lose many things if he don't learn to value what he has. I stayed at the bank until 11 o'clock in the morning, filling out forms, signing documents, waiting for them to process the withdrawal of the cosigner guarantee. I put the $50,000 cash in the briefcase. I'd never carried so much cash before, but I needed it. Needed to feel the weight of my decision. To remind myself that I wasn't the poor old man they thought I was. From the bank, I called Chase where I kept my second account. I want to close the account and transfer all the money to Navy Federal Credit Union. I told them $370,000, the rest at the sale of my shops. Could you come in this afternoon around 2 o'clock? I'll be there. My last stop of the morning was Navy Federal branch in North Atlanta, far from Stone Mountain. I wanted my accounts to be far away, where Terrell couldn't easily find them. I opened 2 new accounts, one checking, one savings. I deposited the $50,000 cash and arranged the transfer from Chase. Mr. Washington, the account executive asked me, may I ask why you're moving all your resources to our institution? Family problems, I replied. Sometimes you gotta protect yourself from your own blood. The woman nodded with understanding. In her line of work, she'd probably seen everything. I returned home at 2:45 in the afternoon. My Dodge Ram sounded different, like it too knew things had changed. On the way, I bought 2 large suitcases at Macy's at Lenox Square. If I was leaving, I was going to do it with dignity. Terrell was at work. The kids were at school. Only Diamond was home, wearing sweatpants and a head wrap, watching her afternoon show Some Reality Mess on Bravo. When I walked in with the suitcases, she looked at me curiously, but didn't say nothing. She was still not speaking to me. After what happened Sunday. In my little room, I started packing methodically. Clothes in one suitcase. Important documents in my briefcase. Loretta's mementos in a shoe box, her wedding ring, her favorite scarf, photos of us when we were young, pictures of Terrell when he was a child, the letters he wrote me when he was in college, the drawings the grandkids had made me. Diamond walked past the door several times, spying on me. Finally, she couldn't resist her curiosity and knocked. "Mr. Washington, you okay?" "Perfectly fine," I replied without turning to look at her. "Never been better. Are you traveling? When you coming back?" That's when I turned and looked her dead in the eye. "I ain't coming back, Diamond. I'm leaving forever." She stood silent for a moment, processing the information. Because of Sunday? Because of Sunday. Because of 2 years of a lot of things. "Mr. Washington, I was drinking." "I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did," I interrupted her. "You just never thought there would be consequences." She left without another word. I heard her talking on the phone, probably calling Terrell, but I didn't care any more. In 4 hours, I had an appointment with the attorney. In a few weeks, they would receive the lawsuit for revocation of the gift. In a month, Terrell was going to lose that BMW, and I was going to recover my dignity. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I closed the suitcases. Everything important was in there. A life of 71 years reduced to 2 suitcases and a briefcase, but I felt free. Freer than I'd felt in years. Diamond was in the kitchen when I left with the bags. She didn't say goodbye. I didn't say it to her either. I loaded the bags into the Dodge Ram and started the engine. In the rear-view mirror, I saw the house for the last time, the house I bought with my money, paid for with my work, gave away out of love, and was now going to recover for justice. Terrell and Diamond were about to learn that in life, everything comes with a price. And humiliating the person who gave you everything is the most expensive mistake you can make. Terrell arrived home from work at 6:45, as always. I could imagine him closing the door of his BMW, greeting Diamond in the kitchen, pouring himself sweet tea. The familiar sounds of a house that was no longer my home, but I wasn't there to hear it. I was at a Comfort Inn off I-20, unpacking my suitcases in a room that smelled like industrial cleaner and air freshener. The bed was hard. The walls were thin. The TV only got basic cable, but it was mine. My space. Where nobody could tell me I was a burden. My phone rang around 7:30. Terrell's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring. He called again. And again. 5 times in 20 minutes. Finally, I answered. "Pops, where are you?" "What's going on?" "I'm somewhere safe." "That's all you need to know." "Diamond said you packed everything. Said you told her you ain't coming back." "That's correct." "Pops, don't be like that. Come on home. We can talk about this." "Home?" I let the word hang in the air. "You mean your house? Where your rules apply. That home?" Silence on the other end. "Pops, save it, Terrell. We got nothing to talk about right now." Just then, I heard another beep call waiting. I looked at the screen. Wells Fargo. "Terrell, you got another call coming. Better answer it." I hung up. 10 minutes later, my phone rang again. "Terrell." I could hear the panic in his voice even before he spoke. "Pops, the bank just called. They said you withdrew your co-signing from my car loan. They gonna take my BMW if I don't come up with $32,000 in 30 days. What did you do?" "What I should have done a long time ago. I got my name off a debt that ain't mine. But they gonna repossess my car." "No, Terrell. They gonna repossess your car. The car you bought with my guarantee, thinking you were entitled to my money forever." "Pops, please. I need that car for work. How am I supposed to—" "You should have thought about that before you called me a burden in front of your friends. Before you and your wife humiliated me at that cookout. We apologized. No, you didn't. You just asked me not to let there be consequences for disrespecting me. I hung up again. The phone kept ringing. Terrell, Diamond, even Zara texted me. Grandpa, please come home. Everyone's upset. I turned off my phone and lay down on that hard motel bed, staring at the popcorn ceiling. For the first time in 2 years, I slept like a baby. The next morning, I met with Mr. Patterson at his office. All the documents were ready. The petition for revocation of gift, the supporting affidavits, the witness list. Roosevelt, once we file this, there's no going back. Are you absolutely sure? I thought about Sunday, about 2 years of silent humiliation, about being treated like a charity case in my own house. File it, I said. 3 weeks later, a process server delivered the legal documents to Terrell and Diamond's house correction, to my house where Terrell and Diamond were living. I know because Terrell called me 17 times that day, left voicemails ranging from angry to desperate to sobbing. Pops, how could you do this? This is our home. Where are we supposed to go? What about Zara and Deshawn? I didn't respond. 1 month after that, a tow truck came for the BMW. Diamond posted about it on Facebook, some passive-aggressive mess about family betrayal and doing your best, but it's never enough. I didn't comment. 2 months later, we went to court. Fulton County Superior Court, Judge Marilyn Thompson presiding. Isaiah and Kaisha testified about what they heard at the cookout. Zara, crying, confirmed the exact words her mother and father had said. Mr. Patterson presented a perfect case, citing Georgia law and precedent that left no room for doubt. The revocation of a gift due to ingratitude is appropriate, Judge Thompson read, when the recipient commits acts demonstrating gross lack of recognition toward the giver. In this case, calling the donor who purchased the home in its entirety a financial burden, stating he lives on charity when he contributes $800 monthly plus unpaid labor, and publicly humiliating him before third parties constitutes gross ingratitude under Georgia Code Title 44. The verdict was conclusive. The gift was revoked. The house reverted to my ownership. Terrell and Diamond had 60 days to vacate the property. I put the papers away and took out my cell phone. I looked up the number for Mr. Patterson, the attorney who helped me sell the auto shops. The screen glowed in the darkness. Patterson and Associates Legal Services. It was 4:30 in the morning. In 5 hours, I would call him and ask something I already suspected, something I learned when I processed the gift deed for this house. In Georgia, gifts can be revoked due to the ingratitude of the recipient. Terrell and Diamond were about to learn a lesson I should have taught them a long time ago. They gonna learn that respect ain't begged for, it's earned. Gonna learn that gratitude ain't optional, it's mandatory. Gonna learn that humiliating the person who gave you everything has consequences. And I'm about to get my dignity back, even if it's the last thing I do in this life. At 5:30 in the morning, I got out of bed without making a sound. I'd slept maybe 2 or 3 hours, but my body couldn't stay still. Ideas were churning in my head like water coming to a boil. A perfect plan had formed by itself overnight. It wasn't revenge, understand me clearly. It was something deeper, cleaner. Justice. I took a cold shower in the shared bathroom, trying not to wake nobody up. Then I opened my small dresser and took out the navy blue suit I hadn't worn since Loretta's funeral. The same one I used when I went to sign important contracts, when I closed 6-figure deals, when I was Roosevelt Washington, the businessman, not the dependent grandfather. The white shirt still smelled of cedar from the closet. The burgundy tie with small gold patterns was a gift from Loretta for our 30th anniversary. My leather shoes bought at Lenox Square Mall when I opened the 3rd. Shop were polished like mirrors. I looked in theirs, Small dresser mirror, and recognized the man I used to. B. Serious, determined, respectable. The house was silent. Terrell and Diamond were sleeping in their master bedroom, the one with the private bath and the jacuzzi tub I had installed when I bought the house. The grandkids were also asleep, unaware of the earthquake that was coming. I tiptoed out, closed the door without a sound, and started my Dodge Ram without revving the engine too much. Didn't want to wake the neighbors at this hour. The streets of Stone Mountain were almost empty. A few people heading to early church service. A couple of delivery trucks making their morning rounds. The cool October air hit my face when I rolled down the window. I felt different, renewed, like a heavy burden had been lifted from my shoulders. Mr. Patterson's office was downtown, Atlanta, on the third floor of a brick building on Peachtree Street. I arrived at 7:15 and waited in the truck, watching the city wake up. Street vendors setting up, musicians with their guitars, flower sellers, early commuters rushing to MARTA stations. The normal life of a city that didn't know Roosevelt Washington was about to change his history. At 7:45, I walked up the stairs. The receptionist, a young woman with natural hair and bright red lipstick, greeted me with surprise. Mr. Washington. What a surprise. The attorney doesn't arrive until 8:30. I'll wait, I told her, sitting in one of the leather chairs. It's urgent. The young woman offered me coffee. I accepted even though my hands were already shaking, and I knew the caffeine would only make it worse. But I needed to stay busy. Needed time to pass faster. In my brown leather briefcase, the one I used for important meetings, I carried all the documents. Deeds, receipts, contracts. My entire life in sealed and signed papers. Mr. Patterson arrived at 8:25, a black man around my age, well-groomed, salt and pepper hair, immaculate charcoal suit. We'd known each other for 15 years. He'd handled all my legal affairs, the purchase of the shops, contracts with suppliers, the final sale of the business. Roosevelt. Brother, what a surprise. How's the family? The grandkids? The grandkids are fine. The family? I paused. That's why I'm here. In his office, surrounded by bookshelves filled with law books and framed degrees from Howard University, I told him everything. Every detail of Sunday. Every word from Diamond. Every gesture from Terrell. The attorney listened intently, taking notes in his leather notebook. Mr. Washington, let me see the gift documents. I handed him the complete folder. He reviewed every paper with the careful attention of someone who's seen many similar cases. Then he took off his reading glasses and looked at me steadily. Roosevelt. According to Georgia Code Title 44, Chapter 5, a gift can be revoked due to gross ingratitude of the recipient when they commit acts demonstrating a lack of recognition toward the giver. Do you have witnesses to what happened? My son's friends heard everything. Isaiah and his wife Kaisha. And my grandkids were there. They saw the whole thing. Were there other prior instances of mistreatment? I told him about the 2 years of silent humiliations, the constant disrespect, the house rules that treated me like an unwelcome visitor, the way Diamond dismissed me like I was old furniture nobody wanted but couldn't throw away. Enough, the attorney said, closing the folder. This constitutes gross ingratitude under Georgia law. The process can take 3 to 6 months, but we can start immediately. We can also request a temporary protective order if you need somewhere to stay. I don't want to go back there, I said firmly. I want them to learn their lesson. I want them to know what it's like to lose what they took for granted. I understand. What else can I do for you? I need you to prepare all the papers today, and I need you to recommend a trustworthy notary public. I left the office at 9:30 with an appointment for 4 o'clock that afternoon. Mr. Patterson was going to have all the documents ready. He also gave me the number of a notary public he trusted, just in case I needed to make changes to my will or power of attorney. My next stop was the Wells Fargo branch at South DeKalb Mall, where I've had my main account for 20 years. I arrived just as the doors were opening. The branch manager, a professional sister in her 40s, greeted me with the courtesy they reserve for clients with substantial accounts. "Mr. Washington, how can we help you today?" "I need to make several important transactions. First, I want to withdraw $50,000 in cash." She blinked in surprise. "That's a considerable amount, Mr. Washington. Are you sure? We can handle it with wire transfers or cashier's checks." "In cash," I repeated. "And I also need information about a car loan where I appear as a co-signer." She asked me to wait while she checked the system. 5 minutes later, she returned with a folder and a look of concern on her face. "Mr. Washington, you are indeed listed as co-signer on a loan for $48,000 in the name of Terrell Washington. The current balance is $32,000. Is there a problem?" "I want to withdraw my co-signing today." The manager went pale. "Mr. Washington, if you withdraw your guarantee, the bank is obligated to notify the credit holder and demand they present a new co-signer or liquidate the entire debt within 30 days. If they fail to comply, we'll proceed with repossession of the vehicle." "Perfect. That's exactly what I want." "Are you sure?" "Your son could lose his car." Cold legal justice, but justice nonetheless. 1 year later, I wake up every morning to the sound of the Atlantic Ocean waves crashing against the shore. You know what that feels like? Like being born again at 72. My condo is on the 6th floor of a peach-colored building with huge windows looking straight out onto the water in Charleston, South Carolina. From my bed, I can see the shrimp boats heading out before sunrise. Like determined workers who understand the value of an honest day's labor, I sold the house in Stone Mountain for $340,000. The market had gone up, imagine that. The housing boom, and I actually made money. Sometimes justice comes with unexpected bonuses. With that money, I bought this 2-bedroom oceanfront condo for $195,000. Had plenty left over to live comfortably for the rest of my life, but complete rest bored me. A man who worked 55 years can't just sit around watching CNN all day, no matter how beautiful the view is. So I looked for something to do with my hands. Something to remind me who I am at Hark Roosevelt, Washington. A mechanic. I found a small garage space 3 blocks from the beach on King Street. I rent it for $850 a month, almost the same amount I used to give Terrell for house expenses. The irony of life, right? The sign says Washington's Marine Repair Outboard Motor Specialist. It's work I knew little about at first, but I learned fast. The basics are the same: metal, fuel, spark, and a whole lot of patience. I open the shop 3 days a week: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from 8 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It ain't for the money, understand? It's for the satisfaction of fixing what others gave up on. The local fishermen bring me their Yamaha and Mercury motors when nobody else wants to touch them. "Mr. Washington," they tell me, "you the only one who can work miracles on these old machines. I charge fair prices. Do honest work. Sleep good at night. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I spend my time walking on the beach, reading books I never had time to read when I was working so much. James Baldwin, Toni Morrison, Walter Mosley. Words that feed my soul. On Saturdays, I go to the seafood market and buy fresh shrimp and crab to cook. Make my own version of Loretta's seafood gumbo. Not as good as hers, but it'll do. On Sundays, I sit on my balcony with a cold, sweet tea and watch life pass by. No rush, no schedule to keep. No one treating me like a nuisance. And Terrell? Simone? The grandkids? For 9 months, I heard nothing from them. Zara would send me messages occasionally. "Grandpa, we miss you." "Grandpa, when you coming to visit?" I replied with love, but without promising nothing. "Love you too, baby girl. Take care of yourself." Through Zara, I found out how they were doing after losing the house. They moved into a rented apartment in Decatur near Terrell's job. 900 square feet instead of the 2,500 they had in my house. 2 bedrooms instead of 4. 1 shared bathroom instead of 3. Diamond had to find a job as a receptionist at a dental clinic on Ponce de Leon, earning $1,300 a month. Terrell was still at AutoZone corporate, but now he took Marta to work because he lost the BMW, and they couldn't afford another car payment. Dad is really quiet now. Zara wrote to me, "Mom cries sometimes. Deshaun asks about you every single day." Messages that hurt, but didn't make me change my mind. Terrell needed to learn the full lesson, not just half of it. The change came on a Thursday morning in September. I was at the shop with my hands deep inside a Johnson 50 horsepower outboard that wouldn't fire up. It smelled like burnt oil and the salt water that gets into every crack in this coastal town. Suddenly, I heard a familiar voice from the entrance. "Mr. Washington?" I lifted my head, and there was Terrell. But not the Terrell I knew. This man looked 10 years older, thinner, deep circles under his eyes, wearing clothes from Ross Dress for Less, not the designer brands he used to rock. He wasn't the proud corporate manager with the pressed shirt and polished shoes anymore. He was someone who'd been broken by life and knew it. "Pops," he said, his voice cracking. "I'm sorry." I wiped my hands with a greasy rag and looked at him steadily. For 9 months, I'd waited for this moment. But now that it had arrived, I didn't know what to feel. Triumph? Pain? Relief? "What did you learn, Terrell?" He stayed silent for a long minute, looking at the oil-stained concrete floor. When he raised his face, I saw tears in his eyes. "I learned that I never valued what I had, that I thought I owned something you gave me out of love, that I humiliated the man who gave me everything in life." "What else?" "I learned that my kids lost respect for me when they saw how I treated their grandfather. That Diamond looks at me different now, like I ain't the man she married. That without your support, without your money, without your quiet help, I'm nothing." The words hit me like body blows. It was what I wanted to hear, but it hurt just the same. Watching your son break ain't easy, even if he broke himself. "How'd you find me?" "Zara gave me your address. I used the last of my savings to buy a bus ticket from Atlanta to Charleston, then took a cab here. Spent my last $50 getting to you." "Does Diamond know you came?" "Yeah. She was the one who told me I had to come, that it was time to swallow my pride and beg for your forgiveness if necessary." I paused, looking at my son who'd become a humble stranger. This was what I'd wanted to achieve with my justice. But now that he was standing in front of me, I wasn't sure if I liked the result. "Terrell, I'm going to make you a proposal. You can accept it or leave the way you came. Anything, Pops, whatever you say. You come work here with me for 6 months. You learn the marine engine business from scratch. Every dollar you earn working with me, you use to pay off what you still owe on that BMW loan. The bank sold the debt to a collections agency, and it's destroying your credit. I teach you. You work. You pay your debt with your own sweat." Terrell's eyes widened in surprise. "You gonna help me get right financially?" "I'm gonna teach you how to earn it back yourself, which is very different." "Where will I stay?" "In the spare room of my condo. Small space with a twin bed and a shared bathroom. Just like the room you put me in at your house." He understood the lesson immediately and lowered his head. "I deserve it. I accept your terms, Pops, whatever it takes." The next 6 months were a transformation I never thought I'd see. Terrell arrived in Charleston that same Thursday with one small suitcase full of used clothes. He moved into the spare room of my condo without complaining about the tight space or the heat that builds up inside. His first day at the shop was a disaster. Terrell didn't even know how to properly hold a torque wrench. His office hands were soft, pale, without calluses. After 10 minutes, he was sweating like he'd run a marathon. "Pops, how do you remove this carburetor?" he asked, struggling with a stubborn bolt. "The way I taught you when you were 15 and wasn't paying attention because you thought you'd be a manager your whole life. Little by little, day after day, week after week, I watched my son transform. His hands hardened, filling with calluses and small scars from sharp metal edges. His skin darkened from working with the garage door open under the South Carolina sun. The muscles in his arms became defined from lifting heavy outboard motors. But the most important change wasn't physical. It was in his attitude. The arrogant manager who thought he owned everything became a humble apprentice, grateful for every lesson. When he didn't understand something, he asked. When he made a mistake, he apologized. When I corrected him, he listened carefully. "Pops, can you show me again how to set the timing on this ignition system?" "Sure, son. But pay attention this time." The fishermen who came to the shop were initially suspicious of Terrell. "This city boy know how to fix engines?" they'd asked, looking at him doubtfully. But when they saw how he worked, how he got his hands dirty, how he wouldn't give up even if he spent hours on the same problem, they started to respect him. "Mr. Terrell," said Captain Jenkins, an old fisherman who brought his boat every month, "you learning the trade for real now. Your hands starting to look like working man's hands." Terrell smiled with pride, the same pride he once felt for his expensive suits and his BMW. But now it was earned pride, not gifted. In the afternoons after closing the shop, we'd walk on the beach and talk about everything we never talked about before. His childhood, his mistakes, how he'd confused having things with deserving respect. "Pops, when I was a kid, you were always working. I thought you gave me money because it was your obligation, not because it cost you sacrifices. Sons always think that, Terrell. It's natural. But sons who grow up right learn to value those sacrifices when they become fathers. I never learned that. Not until now." Every 2 weeks, Terrell took his shop earnings and sent it to the collections agency to pay off the BMW debt. It wasn't much, $350. Every 2 weeks, but it was consistent. He asked me to borrow money for bus fare to visit his family once a month. Diamond and the grandkids came to visit every 2 months, staying at a budget motel nearby. Zara told me her father had completely changed. "Grandpa, he ain't the same as before. He's more humble, more grateful. Mom says he seems like a different man." Diamond changed too. The proud woman who'd called me a burden now asked for my forgiveness every time she saw me. "Mr. Washington, I know I can't take back what I said, but I want you to know I regret it every single day. Forgiveness is earned, Diamond. Terrell is earning it. You can too." The 6 months ended in March, exactly 1 year after I'd left their house. Terrell had paid off $8,400 of the BMW debt. He still owed nearly $24,000, but the collections agency agreed to settle for $15,000 if he could pay it in full. He couldn't. His credit was destroyed. Nobody would lend him money. On the last day Terrell worked with me at the shop, we assembled a 90-horsepower Evinrude motor that had arrived in pieces. We worked in silence, each of us knowing exactly what to do, like a team that had been functioning for years. When the engine started on the first pull, Terrell smiled with a satisfaction I'd never seen in him. "Pops, I ain't never been so proud of something I made with my own hands. Now you understand what it means to earn things, right?" "Yes, Pops, I finally understand." I closed the shop that afternoon, and we sat on my balcony, watching the sunset over the Atlantic Ocean. Terrell had calloused hands, sun-darkened skin, and the clear eyes of someone who'd paid his debts. Terrell, you earned my respect again. Thank you. Pops, and when I pass on, you're gonna inherit everything. But now you know why. Because I earned it. Exactly. Because you learned that everything in life is earned with work, sacrifice, and humility. That respect ain't a birthright, it's a daily conquest. That gratitude ain't weakness, it's strength. I opened my briefcase and pulled out a cashier's check for $15,000. This is to settle your debt completely. Not a gift alone. You're gonna pay me back $200 a month until it's done. With interest. Terrell stared at the check, tears streaming down his face. Pops, I don't know what to say. Don't say nothing. Just be the man I raised you to be. The man your mama would be proud of. Terrell returned to Atlanta the next day. He got his credit straightened out, settled the debt, and kept his job at AutoZone. Diamond kept working too, but now out of choice. Not desperation. The grandkids write to me every week, send me videos, tell me about their lives, and I'm still here in Charleston, South Carolina, working 3 days a week at my marine engine shop, enjoying the ocean the other 4 days. Free, peaceful, respected. With the satisfaction of someone who taught the most important lesson of his life: unconditional love without boundaries. Creates entitled children, but love with consequences. Creates good men. Roosevelt Washington, 73 years old, retired mechanic, proud grandfather. Life teacher. Finally at peace. You like my story? What city you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, you can support the channel so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you for your time and attention. I'm looking forward to your comments. On the screen, you can see 2 new stories I highly recommend. There's so much more content waiting for you. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next story. With love and respect.